All right, guys, welcome to episode number 213 of the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thanks, as always, for being here. Thanks for taking a minute to leave us a rating and a five-star rating and a written review wherever you listen to this. It really does help our podcast show up in people's suggested feeds. And a lot of people find us that way, so we really appreciate it. Hey, we've got a repeat sponsor for this episode.
Oh, yeah?
This is a big one. They've been a sponsor at least once, if not twice. We're sponsored by Toyota again.
Toyota. Wow.
Because we've been putting our Toyotas through their paces over the last week and a half or so.
Yeah.
So if you remember, I think we talked about it before, but we had this giant ice storm and a lot of tree branches fell down because they couldn't handle the weight.
Well, they kind of like fell, but they were still connected to trees.
Right.
They
They
broke, but they were still connected.
Right. So, we're not like certified arborists as far as I know.
Nor do we have the equipment.
Right. But we got a 4Runner and we got a Tundra that are both 4-wheel drive, and we had some toe straps, and we did a little bit of
those limbs right off. Actually, branches. I mean, yeah. Our neighbor was like, "You're going to pull down the tree."
We made sure we were being safe. We had all the safety gear on.
I didn't have any safety gear on.
Like you were inside the truck and I was standing really far away.
Yeah.
We only broke one toe strap in the process, but anyway.
There was only one that pulled back, and like I could not pull the tree branch.
Yeah.
The tree was like,
That one's still attached.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're dealing with the cleanup of that, but it's been kind of fun to have a little side project to do. If anybody needs any wood, firewood or wood shavings, or
our whole front area is just full of it.
Hit us up. We'll make you a good deal. Okay, so moving past the sponsor, we've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking about the 9 exercises every CrossFitter should add to their program starting today. This is something we know a little bit about through personal experience and helping a lot of our clients who either knew nothing about CrossFit or people who had done CrossFit for a long time kind of change their approach and get better results because of it. So we'll talk about how this came to be and why we're even talking about this as we go through. So why don't we talk about first kind of what is CrossFit? Give us a little rundown.
Yeah. CrossFit is constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity. So all 3 of those things, let's kind of break them down, but they're all great. Constantly varied means every time you go to that CrossFit gym, you're going to be doing something different. There are workouts that you repeat, but most of the time you're going to come in and you're not going to know what you're doing. You're doing something different. Functional movements, these are movements we use in everyday life. This is great to learn how to move properly in these ranges. So, if you're picking up a big giant bag of dog food and putting it in your car, same thing as like doing a deadlift or doing like a sumo deadlift high pull to get it up onto your shoulders. You've gone through these movements with barbells and odd objects in the gym, and you know how to do it in everyday life. Yeah. And then performed at high intensity. This is what we always talk about, is like, this is where the magic of, progressing your results comes in, is not just doing your workout, but doing your workout at high intensity.
Probably the most memorable part for somebody who does CrossFit for the first time is like, you're supposed to do what that quickly?
Yeah.
So that's a new stimulus for a lot of people. And one of the reasons that people get such quick results with CrossFit is because maybe they've never worked out with that
any
kind of intensity
before. Yeah, with a clock running.
One thing I want to point out, though, I just thought of this when you were talking about what is CrossFit. Some people might think CrossFit is just the sport that you see on ESPN or whatever channel it's on once a year, because we see we see the CrossFit Games on TV. So tell everybody what that is and how that differs from
what
the CrossFit Games is versus what you get in one of the CrossFit gyms in your city.
Yeah, I mean, the CrossFit Games is like watching the NFL.
Right.
Like I think that's one of the things. It's like the
Olympics.
No, it's like watching the NFL. It's watching basketball. It's like watching the sport. These are the people who play the professional sport. So when we go out and play backyard football or throw a baseball around, we're not like, oh, I'm as good as Tom Brady. But it's like sometimes it's skewed when we go into these CrossFit gyms and we're doing the same workouts. We're doing the same thing as these elite CrossFitters. So sometimes there's this skewed vision of like, this is what CrossFit is like this elite level. But those are the superstars of the CrossFit world.
Yeah, and you got to have expectations. Like when you see these people being able to do that many muscle ups in a row, or clean and jerk that much weight that many times in a row.
You don't see that in a gym,
right?
For the most part.
It's an infinitely scalable sport.
Yeah,
and that way to exercise.
We just talk about this in the last podcast? Yeah. That is the beauty of this sport. It is scalable for everyone. Like your grandmother and an elite CrossFitter can be in the same class doing the same workout, scaled to their abilities, start and finish around the same time, and be like high-fiving each other. We did it, and get the same intensity that is appropriate for their level. Yeah. That's the beauty of this sport.
Okay, so that's kind of the difference between what you get in a gym and what you see on TV. Not that there won't be like people in your local gym ripping their shirts off too, like they do on TV also. It's like, hey, we just started. Why are you already taking your shirt off? Okay, let's talk about what some examples of like a typical CrossFit workout, what people might expect. Because this is going to kind of lead us into maybe why we might want to do something different, and why we're going to suggest these 9 exercises that CrossFitters should add in.
Yeah, I mean, so a CrossFit workout is done in some sort of realm for time. There's a like a stopwatch on
domain.
So you're either doing X number of rounds 4 times. So you get warmed up, you get ready, you get all your equipment in a row, and you're like 3, 2, 1, go, and you're moving well, but as fast as you can, pushing that intensity until you finish as many rounds as you're supposed to. Time, I'm done. What was my time? Mm-hmm. Go up and write your time on the board. Or it can be like 4 time, do all this stuff. Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, complete this list.
Complete this list. Or it can be like, here's a clock. We're going to work for 20 minutes. Do as many rounds through this cycle as you can in 20 minutes. Your score is how many rounds did you get? Moral of the story is this is all done for time. This is what kind of creates the sport of CrossFit. This is what creates that community of like people are working hard around you. This is what creates that high level intensity because you have a clock on you.
Yeah.
And you're not just like going into the gym and shuffling around between sets and things like that.
Yeah. I'm distracted by how much that dog is snoring over there on the couch. Another way that sometimes they're structured, as you have a note here, is the every minute on the minute style, where you have a list of things that you want to do at the top of each minute. You set a clock for, let's call it 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. As soon as it hits a minute, you do the thing, you rest the rest of the minute.
Yeah.
You move to the next minute, you do the thing. So this is another way to kind of control the amount of rest that you're getting and get a certain amount of work done.
The rest is controlled by the workout, not by you. And honestly, like when I would coach new people, I often would this would be the type of workout that would make them like I'm going to feel sick or something. It just because like you feel like, oh, this is a workout where there's rest. There's rest programmed in, but the rest is programmed by the workout, not by you. So if you resting 20 to 30 seconds, or maybe down to 15 seconds, sometimes is not a lot of time. So that really catches up with you, and especially like as you're new to it.
Yeah. So if you go into a CrossFit gym, sometimes they really just look like a wide open room. That's what your gym looked like. And then there's equipment kind of pushed to the sides of the room, and it's typically some bumper plates, the round weights that are made of rubber, some barbells, some dumbbells, some wooden boxes, kettlebells, and not a whole lot other than that.
Pull-up bars and rings hanging from the ceiling. That's
right,
about it.
Some squat racks and things like that. So you're not going to find a lot of machines in a CrossFit gym.
No machines,
because we're emphasizing the functional movement part. But because of that, CrossFit kind of lends itself to doing certain movements that you might not get with a Globo Gym type workout or a bodybuilding type workout. And that has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. So talk about maybe some of the bias that comes in a CrossFit. If somebody were to do CrossFit for 1, 2, 3 years in a row, what are they going to be doing a ton of? What are they not going to be really doing a lot of? And what are some of the advantages and disadvantages to that?
Yeah, so overhead pressing. You're going to see a ton of overhead pressing in CrossFit with just, shoulder pressing, thrusters, wall balls, push pressing. This is something.
Matter of fact, they'll even flip you upside down, make you push against
push your own body weight.
Still a vertical pushing.
So a lot of vertical pushing in CrossFit. A lot of push-ups, burpees, any type of push-up, variation you can think of. And, a lot of like pulling from the ground where we're deadlifting, we're cleaning, or we're snatching. And then a ton of work on those quads, like jumping on boxes, doing squat cleans, doing high rep goblet squats or front squats, and then, jumping, just lots of jumping.
And a lot of those, especially the horizontal pushing, which is like the push-ups, burpees, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the times that's done with very light resistance or no resistance at all. And then a lot of the jumping, plyometrics, air squats is kind of done in the squatting motion, but with not a lot of weight.
Right.
Unless you're doing something like front squats, cleans, or a strength portion of the workout.
Yeah.
So I bring that up because we're going to talk later about how we can kind of tweak things
Right.
to account for that. So
Well, I was going to say, let's get into why we're even talking about this.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
think we've mentioned that.
Let's talk about talking about
Let's talk
this.
about this while we're talking about all this. Like, I'm pro CrossFit, like, definitely. But
high five. If you're watching the video version, we actually did high five.
it can lead to some unbalance in your physique if that's all that you do. It can lead to some overuse injuries.
Potential for
overuse injuries and some imbalances that we were just talking about, like where, you're doing a lot of certain things, but you're not doing the unfunctional movements. The functional movements are terrific.
Right.
But I mean, sometimes it's good to do some of the unfunctional movements so that we can add balance to our physique. We can make our body a little bit more resilient, by strengthening some of the smaller tendons. So that's why we have this three-tiered approach that we take to training our clients, where we combine CrossFit with pure strength training to drive that strength just continually up as we age, and then bodybuilding. That's where we're going to get in those unfunctional movements, like a face pull, a curl. Those aren't functional movements that you're going to need out in your daily life, but they're going to do you some good.
Talk about how when you owned your gym, how like you kind of wiggled that approach into the overall program, because I think it was kind of unique for a CrossFit gym.
It was. We had weightlifting Wednesday. I mean, I think my like, what do you call it, when more people came on Wednesdays because they wanted the weightlifting Wednesday, and if for some reason I didn't program a weightlifting Wednesday, they get there and be like, oh, I thought it was weightlifting Wednesday. And then we started doing like bodybuilding on Thursdays. So a pure bodybuilding type of class, which was completely different, to any, most CrossFit gyms didn't have a bodybuilding class, and it was fun.
Seemed like we always took a lot of like flexing pictures after class on those days.
A lot of flexing pictures from those days, that's for sure.
And those were popular, like you said, those were popular classes. Because another cool thing about if you've been doing CrossFit for a long time is, and if you take the advice that we're going to give you and you start following the program that we're going to lay out, it's going to be a new stimulus for you. And if you think back to when you first started CrossFit, you rapidly got fitter and stronger, and you saw more visible changes in the mirror because it was a new stimulus to you. Well, that same thing is probably going to happen if you start following the advice we're going to give you, because it's a new stimulus. You're going to get to go through kind of another cycle of newbie gains in a different way and start to see rapid improvement.
Yeah. I mean, I did straight CrossFit for probably like, I don't know, maybe like 8 years or something in a row, where I didn't, that's all I did. And my physique changed when I started taking our like three-tiered approach to training. I actually just came across one of the, every morning I look at my old photo memories, like that pops up on my Amazon photo thing. And there was one from like, we did at the old gym I used to work at, Village CrossFit, a body composition where they put you in like the water tank, and you go into this trailer and you like float in water, and they get like,
you blow all your air
you
out.
get like all your body composition numbers. And I weighed, I think like 8 or 9 pounds less than I do right now, but I had a higher body fat percentage. And, flip it around, like I have a lower body fat percentage right now and weigh about 8 to 9 pounds heavier than I did back then. And when I look at pictures of myself, I can see it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I owned the gym, even, I was like very, very, like, I don't know what you call me, like if a stiff breeze blew, I would have blown over.
You looked a little fragile.
I did look a little fragile.
That speaks to the whole conversation of body weight versus body composition, and the importance of disconnecting your mindset from, I want to weigh this much, to chasing a goal for what you want your body composition to be. And what you want your performance to be. Yeah. And matter of fact, we have a 2-part series on that called Eating for Body Composition and Training for Body Composition. I don't remember the episode numbers, but I'll find them and put it in the show notes for this episode. All right, so let's talk about our approach.
Yeah.
You know, we did it in person. We do it with our clients now, whether they have a CrossFit background or not. Let's talk about the specifically the 9 exercises that CrossFitters should add in.
Yes.
Everybody should be doing these, but if you're a CrossFitter only, you really need to add these in.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the benefits of each.
Yeah, we'll talk about what movements to add, and then kind of give you a game plan of how to go about adding these into your week. That game plan is actually going to be available for you to download on our website at digitalbarbell.com/ CrossFit.
The letter I, CrossFit. So you can go download that today.
All right. Some things to add. Dumbbell rows.
Dumbbell rows are way overlooked for people who want to get better at pull-ups. Also, we do so much vertical pulling.
Yeah.
I'm demonstrating if you can't tell in CrossFit.
That's one of the things I forgot on the what the bias of what do you see a lot of in CrossFit is tons of pull-ups.
Yeah. And yes, your lats are getting worked in a vertical pull, like a pull-up, but a lot of the strength from a pull-up also comes from the part of your lat that does a more horizontal row, pulling your elbow back behind you. So if you can strengthen your lats through dumbbell rows, you'll get better at pull-ups also.
This is exclusively dumbbell rows done correctly, though.
Talk about the points of performance
when
on
we do a dumbbell
row.
row, the most common thing that we see is pulling up the weight, in squeezing your elbow and pulling the weight towards your armpit.
Right.
And if you do this, you're just going to feel this in probably the top of your shoulder. You're not going to really be getting the work where we want it to be.
Maybe your bicep.
If we pull this weight more toward our hip, then we're going to feel it in the lats. And you can I think I have a demo video on our YouTube where you can hold onto your lat, put your arm forward and pull your arm towards your armpit and you feel nothing. Pull your arm towards your hip and you actually can I feel my lat moving.
Yep.
And that's what we want.
And dumbbell rows are something that you're probably going to get pretty darn strong on.
Yeah.
We have a lot of female clients that are rowing between 35 and 50 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
and male clients who are between 50 and 120 pounds on dumbbell rows. So you'll progress quickly in your dumbbell rows.
And if you don't have a lot of dumbbell variety, kettlebells are great for this too. I'll go from the 35 dumbbell, then you'll use the 45 kettlebell, a 50 dumbbell, then you can go the 53 kettlebell. So you can kind of get those intermittent weights with those.
Or if you only have access to a barbell and no kettlebells or dumbbells heavy enough to do these with, you can do Meadows rows where you anchor one end of the barbell and you row the other end of the barbell with some weight on there.
All right. Face pulls. These are standing in front of a bar, maybe the bar that you're going to do pull-ups on and having a band tied around it and pulling the band towards your ears.
Yeah.
So you're squeezing your
you're retracting your shoulders back together.
Shoulder blades. I was like, what is that? What is that?
Yeah.
Your shoulder
blades. It's
blades.
called a face pull because you're pulling the weight towards your face. You want to pull your hands towards your ears. So it's going to work your rear delts and your rhomboids. This is a movement you really don't see in CrossFit. So much horizontal and vertical pushing. This is going to make a big difference in your shoulder health overall and just in the development of your back.
Development of your back, that upper back. And you can also do these if you're in a Globo gym on a machine where you can actually start to load some weight. And when we talk about doing these, I put band work in a lot of the warm-ups or in a lot of the finishers. And when we do this stuff, we don't want to just be sloppily pulling and to get through the reps. We want to be feeling a burn and moving with...
Get a good mind-muscle connection.
Yeah, making sure that we're, pretending that we're moving some significant weight here and moving well, even when you're just using a band. And that's when you're really going to feel that work and get the benefit from it.
These are really good for your posture too. If you're somebody that sits at a desk or you're used to being hunched over down looking at your phone and your shoulders are really slumped forward, you look at your side profile in a mirror and your upper back is not pretty flat. Doing dumbbell rows also, but face pulls in particular over time are really going to help straighten out your posture.
Yeah.
So many people who have bicep tendonitis up in the front of their shoulder, doing a lot of face pulls can help balance it out to where you're not putting so much pressure on the front of your shoulder by keeping them back just more naturally.
Yep. Next one, pendlay rows.
Yeah. So a pendlay row is a bent over barbell row, but each rep starts from the floor and you do it explosively. So a little bit of body English there, but the point is to move the weight quickly. So you can use a heavy weight for these, since the bar is starting from the floor. You're not, having to stay in that bent over position where the bar is just barely off of the ground.
Yeah.
So you can use a heavy weight. And like I said, you're going to do them explosively. In CrossFit, you do a lot of cleans from the ground. You do a lot of hang cleans. You do snatches. You do a lot of things that use power, which is strength displayed quickly, but you don't necessarily train your power a lot. You're just kind of expressing it all the time. So a pendlay row is another great way to work on all those muscles of your back, especially your upper back and lats, but also to train yourself to be more explosive in your cleans, in your box jumps, in your snatches. So this is one that you can load up heavier than you might realize also.
Yeah, and a lot of times we would do like drills with like clean pulls, and that sometimes can be an awkward movement for people to be able to actually get enough weight to actually get the benefit out of it. So you're bent on a pendlay row, you're bent over like you're going to do a deadlift, and you're pulling that weight into your stomach basically without standing up and then putting it back down to the ground.
Same thing as a dumbbell row. You want to concentrate on pulling the weight more towards your hips than up towards your chest. Otherwise, you're just going to be firing up your forearms and biceps. Elbows back, back towards your hips and back behind you will really engage the lats and all the muscles of your upper back.
All right. RDLs. So Romanian deadlifts, this can be with barbells or dumbbells.
The RDL is different from a deadlift because it starts at the top of a deadlift. Yes, you have to deadlift the weight up first, but it only starts once you're at the top. And it's almost like if you were to do a straight leg deadlift, but you don't actually set the weight down on the ground.
Right.
The point is just to create a ton of tension in the hamstring. It's a giant weighted stretch on the hamstring. So if you have tight hamstrings, this will actually help you gain more range of motion. But you're just going to have a slight bend to your knees. You're going to send your hips really far back, and you're going to let that weight just drag right down your shins, staying in contact with your body the whole time until you feel that really big stretch in your hamstrings. For most people, it's going to be, if you're doing this with a barbell, where the bar is about mid shin, but right before the weights would touch the ground. And then you want to pull back up with control and squeezing your glutes and your hamstrings as you get close to the top of each rep.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way this is such a great functional movement, both for your hamstring strength and health, but also as a supplement to make you be able to deadlift more weight. If you throw these into your program and you're a CrossFitter, you should expect your deadlift workouts to get much easier over time because your deadlift strength is going up. I wish there was a way to have these incorporated into a CrossFit style workout because they're so great.
But you also want to be doing them under control.
That's the thing is there's really no way to do these for speed. That kind of defeat the purpose of, being in a loaded position and trying to do them quickly.
And the key to really getting the most out of these is really pushing the hips back, like just pushing your butt further behind you than you think. That's always the first cue that we give people to correct that movement. Yep. All right, next one, curls, all the bicep curls. and all the angles that we can do curls.
Yeah, this one's hugely poo-pooed in CrossFit, and that's probably one of the reasons they don't have mirrors in CrossFit gyms is because they would just hate for somebody to be doing.
It used to be. This is really coming around where you're going to see people in a CrossFit gym afterwards doing this, maybe, but
and they bring the dumbbells into the bathroom and do them in private. Yeah, I mean, you do so much pulling in CrossFit, but you don't do a lot of elbow flexion in the direction of a bicep curl.
Yeah.
You are
chin-ups is one of the things
chin-ups, but rarely do you even see chin-ups in a CrossFit Metcon unless they're just doing it as part of their strength program. Right. So, we talked about the reason we suggest in these exercises is two reasons, because number one, it can help offset some of the imbalances in CrossFit programming and tendency towards overuse, but also to make you look better.
Yeah.
So, what person doesn't want to have nice looking arms? And, about a third of your arm is your biceps on the front. So we want to train them directly to get them to grow so that when we're, at the beach in the summer and we have healthy body fat levels, you actually see some bicep definition. So the reason we said there's a lot of different kinds of bicep curls. If you don't have access to a ton of equipment, barbell curls are going to give you the biggest bang for the buck because having your hand in that slightly supinated position is going to recruit more bicep than just doing a hammer curl or a regular dumbbell curl. So if that's all you have access to, you can get extremely large and strong biceps just doing barbell curls.
Yeah. But if you have access to everything, just, changing it up, barbell curls, dumbbell curls, alternating curls, hammer curls, 21s, add them all in.
Oh yeah,
preacher
like,
curls, drag curls.
I would say like we saw the biggest improvement in biceps specifically once we started hitting biceps from different angles.
Yeah.
Because it does change the stimulus. Like you got multiple heads of your bicep, and training it in the lengthened position, like with your elbow back behind your torso, feels different and works differently than something like a preacher curl or a concentration curl where your elbow's in front of your torso. So there is benefit to hitting them with different angles. And as you get more advanced, and you'll see in the program that Blakely's going to talk about, like you're going to be adding volume. So as you add volume over time, you can start to bring in more exercise selection.
Yep. All right. Strict pull-ups and chin-ups.
Yeah.
So in CrossFit, we do a lot of kipping, so because our objective is to go for time. So you have a kipping motion to your pull-ups, so you're allowing you to cycle them faster. But to get stronger at these, we want to do them strict without any other body movement, and even maybe widening the grip to focus that work on the back a little bit more. So a pull-up is with a neutral grip, a chin-up is with a reverse grip. And the chin-up will give you... I think you
meant to say overhand grip.
Overhand grip, yeah. A chin-up will recruit a little bit more bicep than a standard pull-up.
Yeah, and maybe somebody doesn't know what kipping pull-ups are. It's the kind of gymnastic pull-up where people are like kind of wiggling their legs also to create a little bit of momentum.
In control,
to propel yourself up. That's what a kipping pull-up is. And a lot of... I don't want to go down that tangent. I was going to talk about how you should be able to do strict pull-ups before you do kipping pull-ups, but maybe that's saved for another episode. But I want to hit on one other thing. The reason I would suggest doing like the wider grip pull-ups as the supplement to your CrossFit is because everything you do in the gym is going to be with that narrower grip since it's for time. And just widening out the grip will change the muscle stimulus a little bit better, a little bit more, and start to recruit more of the muscles that will help you get stronger with the pull-ups that you're doing in the rest of your workouts.
And similar to what we were talking about with the bicep curls, like, doing all of the variations of the pull-ups with the different grip widths and as well as the different hand, underhand or overhand.
Yeah. Chin-ups are great for bicep growth too, especially once you start adding weight to them.
Try those wide grips. It's tough.
You're going to be like...
You see like a person get their first pull up and their hands are like practically touching because that's where you have the most strength. Widen those hands out and you're like, oh, I thought I could do pull-ups.
Yeah, this squat rack that we have here in the office, it has 2 pull-up bars, a narrow one at the bottom and a thicker fat bar at the top.
Yeah.
And I have to use the one up top because of my height. And using the fat bar wide grip is even harder than using the narrow grip.
I don't like physically know how you do pull-ups with that, because since the way it is like it's 2 bars on top of each other. And so when you're gripping the top bar, your forearm is locked into this position. So like your elbows can't come in at all, or there's no wiggle room at all. I'm just like frozen in time. I'm like, I can't.
I don't know. It works for me for some reason.
You have a strange pull-up.
I couldn't do a chin-up up there probably, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move past the strict pull-ups. What's next?
Low bar back squats.
Low bar back squats?
Yeah.
What are those and why?
If you've ever listened to us, we always promote the low bar position to the high bar position for back squats, because you're just going to recruit more of your posterior chain. A high bar back squat is where the bar sits right on the top of your shoulders. The low bar is going to be down on your back a little bit, and your chest is going to be leaned over to compensate for that bar position, keeping the bar right over the midfoot. And what that's going to do is allow you to drive your hips up more, recruit that posterior chain as you drive out. So in CrossFit, we do a lot of either front squats or high bar back squats to train our quads.
Thrusters.
This will give you a little bit more balance if you're training, if you have time to do some strength training to train that low bar back squat.
Yeah. Plus, if you just get stronger doing low bar back squats, it's going to make every other squatting thing you do better, and you're going to grow more muscle in your posterior chain. Yeah.
And this is one thing that I used to think about when I first started CrossFit. There's a recommended weight. It's like RX. Like I want to be RX. I want to be doing the prescribed weight that's on the board for CrossFit. But of course, your coach is going to be like, okay, you're going to do what's appropriate for you. But that's always the goal. People are like, I want to be able to do the prescribed weight. So the higher you can get, the stronger you can get, the higher you can get your lifts above that RX weight, the more you're going to be able to do those RX weights and do them fast with intensity in those CrossFit workouts. So example of a thruster, if a woman is like, not able to do 65-pound thruster for a lot of reps, you're not going to be recommended to do that weight in a workout. But if you can do a 95-pound thruster for a lot of reps, 65 is going to feel like a breeze when it's in that workout.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Just continue to get yourself stronger in those weights. You're going to be able to move them faster.
And the way you do that is like if your back squat max now is 95 pounds, you need to get your back squat max up to 135, 155, and then it's going to make that 65 so much easier.
Yeah. Yep. Hip thrusts. This is like females, I think, to grow the glutes. I mean, for sure, males can do these too.
Yeah, they're still functional for males, but most of our female clients put more of an emphasis on glute strength and development. So.
Right. So while the guys are doing their chest work, the girls can be doing the glute work and get stronger. So this is where your back is in an elevated position. There's a heavy barbell across your lap, and then you're going to drive your hips up to pull that weight off the ground. And you can see a lot of strength gains on these, and you'll be impressed by how much weight you can actually put on this bar.
Yeah. One thing to watch for in hip thrusts is that where you put your feet. So basically you're sitting on the ground with your back leaned against a bench. Like Blakely said, the bar is going across your lap, your waist, whatever. Put a pad on there or something. If you have your feet out too far away from you, when you get to the top position of the hip thrust, your shin's going to kind of be angled backward. I would say your feet are out in front, and you're going to feel that more in your hamstrings, which there really isn't the point that we're going for in the hip thrust. So you want to really focus on pulling your feet back so that when you're at the top of that hip thrust, your foot is pretty much under your heel, is pretty much under your knee.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna let you get the most hip extension, which will train the glutes, which is what we're looking for.
And you want to do these in a controlled, slow fashion so that you can squeeze at the top of each rep to really get the most out of this. And then you can play with the foot position by like pointing your toes inward, pointing your toes outward, keep a very narrow stance to hit different parts of the glute.
Facing the wall, facing the open gym, whatever you want.
And if you don't have a safe position to do a hip thrust, a glute bridge where you're just laying on the ground, you roll the barbell across your lap, and then you still thrust your hips up, but your back stays on the ground. You can't. I get more out of the elevated hip thrust. Just because you can push the bar and a little bit more range of motion. But if you don't have a safe position to do that, then the glute bridge is fine.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes to find a bench that will not feel like it's going to tip over.
I got a glute bridge pad for Christmas, like it's like a triangle. So it's really stable, so you can really push against it. I love it.
Yeah, even I struggle with that though. Like you have to put your foot behind it for me when I'm doing it because I'm so strong.
I will say I gave this tip to a client before. This is what happens when guys try to do hip thrusts. No, just kidding. Is like I've noticed that guys try to push away, like push away from the thing that they're elevated against.
Right.
And I find that you're supposed to push into it. If you push into it, the bench or the hip pad or whatever you're using won't move. But if you push away from it, obviously it's going to want to scoot back from you. So I'll say guys doing these hip thrusts and they've got like 300 pounds trying to hold the bench down. And I'm like, you don't need that.
It's about your technique.
It's about the technique. Anyway. All right. So that was hip thrust for females, and then chest volume for the guys. And of course, women can join in on this too, but like some incline bench press, some dumbbell bench press, some reverse flies, incline reverse flies.
Yeah. Because think about it. In CrossFit, like maybe your gym has a dedicated strength program where you're working on your bench, maybe once a week at best. It would be hard to even probably schedule that in. But everything else that you're doing for that horizontal pushing is, like I said earlier, under kind of a lightweight scenario.
Yeah, your body weight, essentially.
Push-ups, pretty much, and you're not going to get a lot of chest development that way. And that's one of the things that guys tend to care about is filling out the front of their shirt.
And that'll make your push-ups even easier.
Exactly. So pulling out some of the variations of different bench presses to throw into your program. And the reason that we threw incline in here also is because it just hits different. If you've never done a set of incline barbell bench press, even if you have a relatively strong bench press, get ready to be challenged in a different way.
Pushes it up a little bit more, recruits a little bit more shoulder.
Yeah, as well. Top of your chest and more shoulder, where a lot of people are in a weaker position. So that's why we threw that in there. But even doing dumbbell bench is a great way. If you're in a gym that has cable machines doing arm adduction stuff where you're bringing your arms from out to the side, out in front of you. That's one of the primary roles of the chest. So throwing that in, you can do that with
the bands.
You can lay on your back and do that with dumbbells too. That's the word I'm looking for. That's what they're called, dumbbells.
Dumbbell flies.
That kind of stuff. So guys are especially going to like the benefit of doing some extra chest volume.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we can have the, traditional bench. We can have a close grip bench. And you said like a dumbbell bench and, vary that.
Yeah.
All of them.
Okay. All right. So that's all 9 exercises. How the heck are we going to turn this into a program and then remind people where they can go get this already typed out? Yeah.
So you're still going to do CrossFit. I'm going to recommend you do your 3 to 4 days of CrossFit at this point. If we want to start to, add this into our program. And then we're going to have, recommend that you hit about 10 sets of each muscle group per week. So to think about it, you can probably Google or think about what does a dumbbell row hit? What does a face pull hit? What does the, RDL hit? What muscle groups are those hitting, and figure it out, or you can just download our program and it's all figured out for you.
Yeah.
So I recommend on that, you're going to do CrossFit 3 to 4 days. Mm-hmm. One day you're going to go into the gym and you're just going to back squat. You're going to back squat, RDL, do some curls, do some rows. Okay. And if you need a little bit extra, you can do 20 minutes of steady state or something like that. The second day, you can do your CrossFit workout, but add a 30-minute accessory to the end of your day where you're hitting your hip thrust, you're doing some pull-ups or chin-ups, some face pulls, and some bands with a finisher. Okay. So that's your day. I would start with doing about 3 sets of each movement. Of these accessory exercises. And you're going to use a hard set method to where you want to be able to do between about 8 to 12 reps. So after you warm up a little bit, make sure that you can do at least 8 reps with great form, but no more than 12. Mm-hmm. So, you want it to start to get hard around that 8th to 9th rep. And then as you get stronger, you're going to get closer to 12. And once you get, you're doing dumbbell rows, for example, you're doing 35 pounds, you can do 9 reps. Once you get to 12, it's time to move up to that 40-pound dumbbell.
How does somebody know when they should end a set? How do they know what is a hard set, like you said? Yes,
a hard set, you want to stop before you hit failure. So you want to think about the speed of the weight that you're pulling. So we'll keep with the dumbbell row example. You're pulling nice and steady, and about that 9th rep, you notice that it's takes maybe an extra second or 2 for you to get the weight up. That's an indication it's time to start to stop. Mm-hmm. Maybe squeeze in one more rep, but what you don't want to do is take your muscle to failure.
Mm-hmm. So it's right before failure.
Right before failure. And the more you do this, you're well, how do I, it's kind of like telling somebody turn before you get to the McDonald's. Well, if I haven't got there yet, how do I know when I'm going to get there?
Maybe you got to pass it one time and see.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So maybe you get to failure one time, or maybe you realize oh, I think I really had 5 more reps in me. As you do this more and more, you'll start to learn how to work. This is, again, we're working with intensity. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing.
It's a common
here.
thread in results.
Yeah. But we're not getting to failure because you don't want to put that type of damage on your muscles, on your body every single day that you're in the gym. Just it's 1 rep max, let's just max out every day of our life, every time we're in the gym. Yeah. There's no recovery. Yeah.
Especially if you're already doing high intensity workouts like CrossFit.
Yeah.
3 to 5 times per week.
Yeah. Depending on the weight you're moving and depending on, which movement you're doing, I would rest at least 60 seconds or more. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing something like the squats and the barbell RDLs, that's going to be more 2 to 3 to 4 minute rest between your working sets. When you're doing something like the bicep curls or tricep extensions or rows, 60 to 90 seconds between your sets. And I think this is an important piece to tell these CrossFitters too, because, you're rest between sets. What is that? I'm used to working at intensity.
I rode a 500 meters between sets per time.
Yeah. So let me just give an example really quick. You're doing your dumbbell rows. This is what it would look like. You're going to do 1 to 2 weights to warm up with about 5 reps on each arm. So maybe I'm going to grab the 25, do a couple reps, grab the 30, do a couple reps on each arm. Okay, I'm ready to go. Grab the 35s, 1 hard set. I would rest about 90 seconds. Second hard set, rest about 90 seconds. Third hard set, done.
Yep.
Write down my results. Maybe I got 12, 10, 9.
Yep.
That's my results. Next week I see, okay, I'm going for all 10s at least, 12,
You said write
10,
down
10.
your results.
Write
Let's
down
not
my
skim
results.
over that part. It's
Yes.
important to record what you got so you have a goal like you're about to talk
Yeah.
about.
And so I know what I got last week. I know what I'm going for this week, and I know how to keep progressing. And once I've got 12, oh, sweet, I'm going to the 40s. And
Yep.
that's how we keep, getting
That's
stronger.
how progress is made.
Yep. And then every month, if you're into this, if you're like, I love this,
I'm bit by the bug. I like the results I'm getting. What do I do now to keep it rolling?
add a set, add a fourth set, and then maybe add a fifth set, and I think once several months has gone by and you've been adding you're up to 5 sets of workout, you're going to be like, okay, I'm bought in, maybe I'm going to go 2 to 3 days of CrossFit, hard CrossFit, and then 2 to 3 days of isolated, strength and bodybuilding type work.
Mm-hmm. And really I think we talked about this at the beginning, but we started out doing only CrossFit for a very long time and then made this transition through a lot of things we've detailed in other episodes of this podcast. So explain, let's just say somebody did CrossFit in the past, they don't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. They got burnt out, they got hurt, their gym closed, whatever. And they want to hire us to put this into place based on what we've learned over the last 10 years. What is it going to look like as far as the combination of all this in a typical week for us?
Yeah, a typical week for us looks like if I say let's do it, we work out 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. We do a main lift, 3 to 4 of those. We start with a main lift, like a squat, a deadlift, a press, a bench, 3 to 4 days of those weeks. Mm-hmm. We have 3 to 4 accessory movements that we do after that.
This
so
is kind of
rows,
stuff that we described.
The triceps, the curls, the RDLs. And then we do some sort of finisher where it can be like a CrossFit workout at the end, or a finisher for abs and glutes, or abs and chest work, or something that.
Which might not be for time. The thing that we did yesterday was get through this list 4 times for quality. So pulling back on that intensity that you might be doing 4 or 5 times
mm-hmm.
a week, still getting a lot of volume in, but not pushing that intensity every single day in the gym.
And for myself, for you, from our general client list, I take out some of the movements that we used to do in CrossFit, like the high rep snatches, high
rep deadlifting for speed.
Handstand push-ups, things like that. We can still do CrossFit. We can keep it in a controlled manner. We can still get the functional movements performed at high intensity, constantly varied to keep it fun. So every week that you do our programming, yes, you're going to maybe back squat every week. You're going to dumbbell row every week. All these things in the progression that I'm writing. But you're also going to get that constantly varied by the finisher, by the mm-hmm. CrossFit workout that you're doing. And that's what keeps people coming back.
And going all the way back to the beginning, the reason we do this is because we recognize the benefits of the CrossFit style training, but we want to be balanced. We want to be strong across all of our muscle groups. Mm-hmm. We want to look like we work out. We want longevity.
Yeah, and we want to be able to do it 5 days a week, or whatever, and keep our body recovering every day. So sometimes you'll go through the list, and then the finisher will be 20-minute steady state. That's mm-hmm. great for your heart health. You know, it's just I'm gonna kind of hit you at all the angles.
Right. Okay, so back to our person that's going to stick with CrossFit, but they want to add in the digital barbell, 9 supplemental exercises to make life better for a CrossFitter.
Go to digitalbarbell.com/I, the letter I, CrossFit, and you can download this list. I'm going to have the list of movements, and I'm going to give you some sample days, just how to incorporate, literally some workouts. You can just print this out and bring it to your gym, and if they let you do workout on the side, be able to do this and
Boom.
add it to your gym. Add it to your workout.
You can't beat it, and it's free. All right, cool. All right, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
We just rearranged our gym space, and I'm very happy with it. I say gym space. We used to work out in an RV storage, and I just got sick of it being so dusty out there. It's like an RV storage, so it's open air. And we've lived here 2 years, basically to the day. First year and a half or year 3/4, I was loved it. But it's when it's humid outside, it's nasty. The equipment sweats. It's often windy and dusty here. I'm blowing off pollen. It's been pretty darn cold for the last 4 months. I feel like when's it going to be warm again? So we've slowly moved equipment into this office space, which happens, we've made it work. And yesterday we put down 4 of the black flooring mats. So now we are set. We're like, this is our gym. Our RV is in the RV storage. And if we need, if people come over, we'll pull the RV out and we can all work out in there. But
yeah,
I love it.
You're already trying to figure out a way to bring the assault bike in here.
I see the spot.
We have our 2 electric bikes that they could go somewhere else.
They're going to get kicked out, and we're going to put the assault bike in here, and we're done.
Yeah.
We don't have our rower in here. That's the only thing, but if we can bring that in and out.
Yeah, or just use it outside.
Yeah.
Actually, we made a video tour of the gym studio.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do it again because it's different now every day.
I'll put a link for the YouTube video where you can check that out before we put the floor mats down.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to myself at jonathan@digitalbarbell.com or Blakely at
BLAKLEY at digitalbarbell.com.
That's it. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week.